Welcome to the Windows Computer and Technology channel. And, a lot of you have been asking me one very interesting question. If I were Microsoft, where would I put the bar for the minimum requirement? One of the things to understand is that, first of all, there needs to be a minimum requirement. And I think a new version of Windows, it's time to choose one. And we have to choose one. And the reason behind this is that all processors are not the same from generation to generation. Each generation adds new features, and that makes a difference. It makes a difference in how you can actually handle different aspects of the operating system and security. Personally, I think the TPM 2.0 requirement isn't that bad of a requirement because it exists for a long time, quite a few years at least. And also, most people have it in their CPU. Intel 8th generation and later, and Ryzen, a lot of Ryzen generations from the past few years all have that requirement. It just needs to be turned on, and a lot of people that think they don't have it actually probably have it. The actual module of installing a TPM 2.0 module is not that much of a requirement today compared to the past. Now, one of the bad things that happened is that some do have TPM 2.0 requirement, but the manufacturer of the motherboard in the BIOS didn't put an on-off switch, which is kind of dumb when you think about it. If you have that there, they should have at least added that on-off capability. The minimum requirements for the CPU, I think it could be relaxed a little up to, I would certainly say that going up to the 6th generation of CPU, Intel CPU would be an okay requirement. Because from 6th, 7th, 8th generation, of course, there are differences, but they aren't that big. And one of the things that I was kind of thinking about the generations also, I wonder if one of the things, and they're not talking about, when the Spectre and Meltdown security problem appeared on the CPUs, was around 2018, something like that. Something like January 2018, if I remember well. And that actually created a change within the processors after the fact. The older processors could not be fixed, even though there's microcode fixes that mitigate, where a lot of mitigation was done within the processor itself later on. So that could be one thing that they're thinking about, as they are focusing, and the word security came up quite a few times in Windows 11. So maybe that's one of the things. But, Microsoft isn't communicating well, and that's probably bigger of a problem than anything else. But I would probably put the line to about 6th generation. Why? Because 5th generation and before lacks a lot of features, including a lot of the newer virtualization technologies that processors are capable of. And that does create, at some point, a line where you got to draw. People tend to think of, well, my processor runs Windows 10 fine. Why could it not run Windows 11 fine? Simply put, because Windows 11 requires better security and a different way of using technology. It's a different way of working. They have to draw a line where they could not implement some new features if they don't have the processor that support them. It's as simple as that. It's not. People tend to think that processors, except for the fact that they're faster and faster, that they're all the same, where they're not the same at all. Actually, each generation has new features, and these new features cannot be, they don't exist on older processors. You can't invent them on older processors. So the software requiring these newer technologies requires newer hardware. Is 8th generation and later too strict? maybe a little. Um, like I said, I would put the line to maybe sixth generation, but I would not include fifth generation or before, because these start to lack a lot in what could be necessary for future computing in an operating system that wants to be more modern. And that TPM 2.0, like I said, the majority of computers that have recent processors are all TPM 2.0 capable, pretty much. They just need to have that switch put on in the motherboard, which is a software switch. You have to go into BIOS and activate FTPM or the PTT on Intel. But a lot more computers than we think have TPM 2.0 already integrated in the processor itself. For the rest, another question that arises is a lot of you are asking me, well, how many computers you have and how many are compatible? The computers I have here, okay, honestly, 3 of them are computers that I've purchased in the last few years to work with YouTube and stuff and my live shows that I do. Quite a few of them are older computers that were given to me when I would do a lot of tech jobs in the past. Some people would give me their old broken computers. I'd fix them up, and sometimes it made cheap computers for people that didn't have a lot of money, but sometimes I also kept some of them to run different things on them. Of all the computers I got here, 3 of them are compatible Windows 11. The others are not making the cut, and that is fine with me, honestly, because they can still run Windows 10 fine, and I use them in different things. I have one with Linux just to play around with Linux. I have a couple with Windows 10 that do different other things. And the ones that can go to Windows 11, fine, they'll be eventually moved on to Windows 11. My main laptop is a gaming laptop, so it's the one that I'm using here making the video. On this laptop, I've got an AMD Ryzen 7 4800H. Here it says with Radeon graphics, but I also have an NVIDIA chip for graphics. High performance graphics on this computer. This works fine with Windows 11. I've got a new mini PC by B-Link, which has an 8th generation Intel Core i5 processor that also is compatible with Windows 11. It's the one that's running actually the insider build of Windows 11 right now. And I've got a Acer Nitro 5 that also is capable of running the Windows 11 operating system. So 3 of them are capable. The other ones, well, you know what? I look at the other ones, and honestly, they run Windows 10. And when in 4 years and a half from now, when the Windows 10 support ends, I can barely see I can still use them, as they are slow and the performance is not there. And in 4 years and a half, it's going to be worse probably. So I don't really mind that they're not compatible with Windows 11 because of that. It's in 4 years and a half, they probably are not going to be part of my computers anyways. And I think a lot of people are there. A lot of people are going crazy with their 5-year-old PC not running Windows 11, not realizing that you continue with Windows 10, it's fine. There's no problem there. You still have 4.5 years, and that 4.5 years is going to bring your PC up to 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, depending on the PCs you guys have. That's starting to get real old for a computer. And that is where I think a lot of people don't see that in the future, that 10-year-old PC is going to be 10 years old. You're going to want to have something else. You're going to want to have other things to run. Even those that say, well, we'll run Linux on that PC in 5 years. In 5 years, even Linux won't run on it. Linux distros work on a lot of modern hardware, but not that well on a lot of older hardware. So, it's when I hear that, it's like, no, I have a lot of older hardware here that doesn't run well pretty much any distro of Linux. And that is, for me, it's when people say we're all going to move on to Linux. No, people are not moving on to Linux. People are moving on to something else. They're either not going to buy a new PC. There is quite a few people that are moving on to Chromebooks for a simple reason. They don't need anything complex. They just want to have the basics, and Chromebooks offer that basics. And a lot of people are just, going back down to an Android tablet or even their phones, and they find it enough for what they want to do. That's the way it is. So, that's my minimum requirement. TPM 2.0, like I said, is fine. Maybe start at 6th generation and later rather than 8 like right now. But for the rest, we have to draw the line for some of that newer technology coming up with Windows 11. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.